Hey, what's happening, good people? I am just trying to test this out, figure out how this thing is working. I wanted to come to you and share a good book with you this morning just to kind of see how going live on YouTube works. But I'm reading Amos Wilson, African Centered Consciousness versus the New World Order. Again, Amos Wilson, African Centered Consciousness versus the New World Order. Garveyism in the Age of Globalism. It's a really good book. It's a great discussion. And I just wanted to read a bit of this today to one, test this platform to see if it's working, see if anybody's out there listening, but dive in a little bit. So I'm just going to read from pages 21 maybe to 23 and kind of see how this thing works and see how it goes. Just kind of test it out. All right. So in 1912, Garvey departed for England, intent upon broadening his perspective even further. His time was maximized. He attended lectures at Birkbeck College, University of London, made regular visits to the House of Commons, studied at the city's magnificent libraries, and spoke to the Hyde Park's famous Speaker's Corner. He also traveled to Scotland, Ireland, France, Spain, Italy, Austria, Hungary, and Germany. In England, he secured a job with the African Times and Orient Review, published in London by an indigenous African, Dusay Mohammed Ali, a scholar, brilliant propagandist, and world traveler who agitated for African independence. He became a Garvey mentor, enlightening him of Africa's antiquity, its glorious history, topography, people, mineral wealth, and tremendous potential. Dusay also informed on the brutalities of the continuing Arab slave trade and how Islam came to dominate the continent's northern and eastern regions. Northern and eastern regions. He learned of Africa's present configuration as a result of the Berlin Conference, November 13th, 1884 to February 26, 1885, at which England, France, Germany, Portugal, Spain, and Belgium, with Turkey and the United States of America onlooking, willing accomplices, agreed to bring order, quote unquote, order to the ongoing theft of Africa. A gentleman's agreement that the European imperial powers would respect each other's legitimate territorial claims. Dusay pulled no punches when it came to Africans' then condition. Slavery, degradation, rampant European domination, and the brutal exploitation ruled every corner of the mother continent. The African race was nowhere found a safe haven. Black life was extirpated. The whole race had been brought to heel. A much enlightened and reinvigorated Garvey returned to Jamaica in June 1914, 1 month before the outbreak of World War I. His mind filled with ideas of enterprise and establishing of what he referred to then as the Universal Improvement and Negro Conservation Association and African Communities League, an organization for the betterment of Africans, black people, at home and abroad. 5 days after arriving, Garvey launched the association in Kingston. The association was officially founded on 1st August 1914. Chosen since that date marked the anniversary of abolition of African enslavement in the British West Indies. Again, I'm reading from African Consciousness, African Centered Consciousness versus New World Order, Garveyism in the Age of Globalism by Amos Wilson. It's a great read here. It met with lukewarm responses. Many better off blacks dislike Negro in the association's title. Not knowing much about themselves, they associated the word with everything low and filthy. They preferred to be called the less offensive colored. The island's whites, on the other hand, feared the mass organizations of blacks, that such unity represented a power shift that would loosen the ultimate and ultimately destroy the grip of white privilege in the community. At first, Garvey's efforts were confined to Kingston. After a year of organizing, his following only amounted to about 100. It wasn't until the lecture at his hometown, St. Ann's Bay, that the appeal took hold. While in London, Garvey had, along with numerous other books, read Booker T. Washington's autobiography, Up From Slavery. It impacted Garvey profoundly and fueled his clarion call, which birthed the UNIA in Jamaica. Its text had welled in Garvey the imperative questions. Where is the black man's government? Where is his king and his kingdom? Where is the president, his country, and his ambassador, his army, navy, and men of big affairs? And not finding them, true to his resolve, he declared, I shall create them. Amid the swirl of organizing activity, he further recalling the text and mission of Tuskegee Institution, set the establishment of technical colleges across the breadth of Jamaica as the UNIA's primary goal. He wrote to Booker T. The elder educator responded warmly and invited Garvey to come to the United States of America. Unfortunately, before Garvey could set sail to be able, Booker T in 1915 died at the age of 53. News of Booker T. Washington's transition did not deter Garvey. Saddened, he proceeded with his plan and journey undaunted. Besides, he had read much about the Republic and wanted to see the rancorous giant for himself. He had planned a 5-month speaking tour to black areas to raise money for his new UNIA, then return home. He arrived in New York in 1916. After a bout with pneumonia, Garvey was on his feet and soon undertaking a breathtaking U.S. speaking tour. He made time to meet with and befriend some of the country's leading black intellectuals and race leaders, many of whom he found wanting, self-serving, and lacking in character. His tour through 38 states left him all the wiser, but disappointed. While some blacks had achieved a narrow measure of progress, their masses were still mired in poverty, lack of education, beset with racism, and a host of psychological and physical diseases, and were staggering under massive underemployment, not far from the lash of whips. Garvey's arrival in Harlem, New York, was an auspicious one. New York was the port city, a growing center of finance, trade, and communication to rival London. As New York's newly created Black Quarter, Harlem was swelling with black refugees from Southern oppression and migrating blacks from the Caribbean. Harlem's intellectual life boomed. Artists and writers and musicians gathered there to express their talents in a way not possible in any other climate. There were a number of race groups, everything from Neo-Egyptians, mystics to revolutionaries advocating violent overthrows, whose appeal could be heard on any day of the week, broadcasting from atop speakers, ladders, and soapboxes. Garvey sunk himself into the contrasting, vibrant environment of wealth and poverty, culture and baldiness, and awakening. It wasn't long before he was lecturing and joining the soapbox orators. The years of erudition and elocution had paid off. The people of Harlem embracing his message of race pride and race liberation. His, up you mighty race, you can accomplish what you will. In 1917, saw the establishment of the Harlem branch of the UNIA, the United Negro Improvement Association, which boasted a growth of 2,000 members in 2 months. The organization had found fertile soil. The year 1918 saw the incorporation of African Communities League, the business arm of the UNIA. That year also saw the birth of the Negro World, a well-written, well-edited Pan-African news and nationalist propaganda vehicle, which became the most widely read black weekly in the world. The paper was published in 3 languages, namely English, Spanish, and French. In its early days, the Negro World was given away for free, slipped under doors of the Harlem residents at sunrise. By 1919, the UNIA had branches in 30 states, while others sprang up in Central and South Africa. The Spanish and English-speaking Caribbean, and blossomed on the mother continent, Africa, where it skipped down the coast to influence the young founders of the African National Congress in far-off South Africa. Before the dawn of the 1920s, the organization's ranks had swollen to over a million members, and would be subsequent years rise to well over 6 million, numbers which have not been equaled since by any black mass organization. America had become a grander platform for his global plans. The year 1920 would prove to be unparalleled in the history of Pan-Africanism. For the entire August, Garvey staged in New York City the first of 6 international conventions of the Negro people of the world. At the opening session, held at Madison Square Garden, 25,000 delegates packed into the arena with crowds spilling into the streets. Present were delegates from every corner of the globe. The impact of the convention's many resolutions and declarations are still with us. Teamed with the Black Bill of Rights, the numerous resolutions included the Black history be taught in schools, that lynching and racial discrimination be brought to an end, that Africa belong to Africans, that the tricolors of Africa, the red, the black, and the green, be adopted as a standard for the race. The Assembly also elected Garvey as the President General of the United Negro Improvement Association and the Provisional President of Africa. The last day of the convention was declared a national holiday for blacks. Such was the magnitude of the UNIA that a parallel convention lasting the same 31 days occurred in the port of Spain, Trinidad, attendees and delegates unable to attend the one in New York. Interesting, but again, this is an excellent read, one that I definitely recommend. African-Centered Consciousness versus the New World Order, Garveyism in the Age of Globalism by Amos Wilson. I'll start to do my best to try to come to this platform a bit more and engage with you about our beautiful Black history and culture. If you watched any of this, leave me a message. Let me know that you enjoy the readings, and then maybe I'll continue it. But I definitely want to start my foray into the YouTube world, so I appreciate y'all spending some time with me this morning. Peace and blessings, love, peace, and power to the people. Have a good one, good people.